Kia ora, good evening. Microsoft and Google have introduced measures to limit the access their search engine users have to objectionable images of children. Google's chief executive Eric Schmidt says illegal content will be blocked from appearing for more than 100,000 queries that might be related to the sexual abuse of kids. An additional 13,000 search terms will return warning messages at the top of the page telling the user that indecent images of children are illegal and offering advice on where they can get help. Microsoft have also implemented the changes through their Bing search engine. Campaigners welcomed the move but doubted how much impact the changes would bring, as offenders often trade objectionable images through peer-to-peer direct file sharing. Southlanders are continuing to dig deep to help those in most need following the devastation caused by Typhoon Haiyan when it collided with the Philippine Islands almost a fortnight ago. The Southland Filipino community is collecting much needed funds to send as aid to the beleaguered nation. In just a few days accepting public donations, almost $8,500 has been collected. More aid is now reaching those in most need in the central Philippines, a situation that pleases Southland Filipino Society Chair Dorothea Hawkins. Mrs Hawkins has nothing but praise for the generosity shown for her homeland by people of the region.
We have collected all in all 8,414, and it's really great. And we really appreciate that to the Southland community and for their generosity. So, in behalf of the Philippine people, we, the Southland Filipino Society Incorporated, would like to thank you, the people of Southland, for your kindness and generosity. People who wants to donate, they can come up here in our community center, which is 122 East Street, corner of Devon Street. And we will be there. We are planning to go tomorrow to New World South, and there are more. I would like also to thank you to those people that we have boxes on it, like Southland District Council, the library, and we would like to thank you also because we have the box in Asian Filipino food store in Yarrow Street, and the Filipino store in Winton. They're trying to collect for us too.
And now, what are your thoughts of home now? It looks like the aid is getting through now. Things are quickened up.
Yeah, at the moment we're happy what's going on, how the smooth of distributing the relief goods, but still there's still some that have hassle on it. And we are very grateful to the New Zealand because they use their Hercules and their army to reach the small island of Tacloban City, and they're distributing food and they are evacuating the refugee to Cebu.
So families, the feedback you're getting from the community in Southland, they're saying that they're happy with the aid getting through to families now?
Yes, we're happy.
Foreign Affairs Minister Murray McCully today announced New Zealand will provide a further $2.975 million to help those affected by Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines, taking New Zealand's total contribution to more than $5 million. Showcasing New Zealand's prime meats to winners of a consumer survey the Alliance Group ran in Harbin, China in July is bringing extra TV and media coverage for the meat exporter. A Chinese delegation of 27 were at Alliance's Lawnville plant today, sampling a range of cooked export meats while being filmed for a TV broadcast in China.
A lot of these people haven't been to New Zealand before. They're aware of New Zealand as a product and as a brand, but they're coming over here. So where does it come from? The traceability, the animal welfare, food safety and health, which are all important as part of their diet, and certainly the Chinese are becoming more aware of good high-value protein.
What are they going to be exposed to while they're here?
They've just been on plant, which the Lawnville plant's the biggest sheep meat operation in the world in terms of processing sheep meat. They're going to be tasting a range of products from beef, lamb and venison, and also going onto a farm to experience farm, which a lot of them will be, this is the first time they've ever experienced that.
You have a large amount of lamb and mutton exported to China. What kind of preparation are they using this for over there?
A lot of it is for their traditional eating styles of hot pot and Korean barbecue, but they are progressively moving into Western style cuts, and that's the sort of platform we want to develop with some of the products we're going to show them today.
So you're aiming to try and get into the higher end of the market, into restaurant as opposed to the domestic market?
Yes, very much so. As a lot more urbanisation, population's growing, there's more disposable income, and so there's more food service, there's more hotels, there's more restaurants, so we want to be in that space progressively for the future.
It's been a change in the diet of the Chinese towards a more Western diet?
Yes, it is, and also they're more knowledge on health. Their government is trying to fix the diets. I mean, their eating patterns haven't been probably that good. They do have a lot of fat content, so lamb is good in that space, and that's where we want to be for the future.
It's perhaps not the perception we have of the Chinese diet. I think a lot of us probably think they have quite a healthy diet.
Yes, well, they eat a lot of range of products, and I think that is why it's important that the government is looking at, we want to preserve their longevity in terms of life, and they're looking at protein as one of those aspects in food safety protocols that they're coming out with and have come out the last 3 or 4 years.
Do you think that the positive exposure that this type of group will have coming to New Zealand might help with other protein exports?
I'd like to think so, and as I say, China is a huge market. I think New Zealand, in terms of agricultural base for China, is going to be important for the future, and these little stories, I think, will just help New Zealand's agriculture going forward. Then we're looking, as I say, more value in terms of getting more value so we can support our farmers to stay on the land.
And as far as supply and demand go, is there enough produce in New Zealand to meet the demand from China?
I don't think there will be in the future, and I think they're also looking at, within China, they're spending a lot of money trying to lift farmers' performance, and so I think where that New Zealand has a good little niche at top end, I think that's where we could be, and I think that's where the value will be for the future.
Will this potentially affect your export markets in other areas?
What it does, we as a company and a country need to balance what sort of exposure we have with China. We have got other traditional markets that are still important, and there's more free trade agreements opening up. So there's more diversity with our business, which has only got to be positive for the future.
Despite a 9% increase in sheep meat and beef exports to China in the past 2 years, traditional markets like the United States and the European Union remain New Zealand's dominant source of income. Export data from Beef and Lamb New Zealand for the year ending September show China became New Zealand's largest single and mutton market in 2012 to 13, importing 131,000 tonnes compared to 74,000 tonnes into Great Britain. But the average value of lamb exports to China trails well behind returns achieved in the EU and US markets, with China paying $4,800 freight on board per tonne compared with $9,000 from the EU and $11,500 from the US, reflecting the product mix exported to the different countries. Stay with us after the break. How bark chips and oyster shells may help clear murky waters in the south. Welcome back. Figures released in the inaugural Westpac mobile banking report show the enthusiasm which Kiwis have taken to banking on the run. Westpac surveyed 800 customers and found half of those using mobile banking felt the service made them feel more in control of their finances, while 43% said they were more likely to pay their bills on time. 25% of respondents were less likely to go into overdraft, and the majority said they were comfortable dealing with large sums of money through mobile banking. The main perceived advantage of mobile banking, survey respondents said, was convenience. Westpac will conduct its mobile banking survey every 6 months. Observing and improving water quality issues without a huge cost to farming systems or economic growth is behind a new trial set to start in the south. Environment Southland has secured funding for a carbon bioreactor trial in conjunction with NIWA and Dairy NZ that could assist where water's been contaminated with excess nutrients. In the trial, carbon-friendly bugs and wood chips will take nitrates from the water and turn it into nitrogen.
So as they're munching away on the wood chips, they're converting what we consider to be a waste product into an inert gas which doesn't have any environmental problems.
The 4-stage process is simplistic. A deeper water habitat traps sediment and provides an open area for ducks to land. Next, water passes through a wood chip filter before entering a planted wetland, which further purifies the water. In the final stage, water passes through a series of trenches filled with oyster shell to absorb phosphorus.
There's calcium within those oyster shells, and that calcium grabs onto any phosphorus floating through the water, and that process is well documented. So in the case of carbon, it's targeting nitrogen, so it should turn nitrate, into nitrogen gas, and in the case of oyster shells, it should be able to absorb phosphorus from the water. So the result will be the water coming out at the other end will have a lot less nitrogen and phosphorus in it.
As far as the applications go in other industries, the dairy one seems like an obvious choice.
Yeah, sure. Well, the application is anywhere where there's space to put these wetland systems, and that the water coming through the system has more nitrogen and phosphorus than we'd ideally like.
As far as conditions go in Southland, you haven't trialled it here yet. It is temperature dependent on the success of this. How do you think it'll go?
Well, that's why we're trialling it. So we are a little bit concerned about the cooler temperatures. So when it's less than 5 degrees, the carbon bioreactors in particular aren't meant to be as effective as they are at warmer temperatures. But in saying that, a lot of the sort of groundwater in Southland doesn't get to 5 degrees. It stays a bit warmer. It's sort of buffered by the being underground. And the data we have indicates that we're probably actually going to be above that 5 degree threshold, but we need to trial it to make sure.
What happens if the process isn't complete? What sort of gases come off, perhaps half cooked?
Yeah. So one of the problems with this denitrification process is that when they're taking nitrate through to nitrogen gas, there's an intermediate product which can be produced, which is nitrous oxide. And that's a greenhouse gas, so it's actually more potent than carbon dioxide. So one of the potential negative results might be the production of nitrous oxide. That tends to occur at higher latitudes though, so we don't think it's going to be a problem, but it is something to keep an eye out on.
Any idea when we can expect some results from this?
So we're hoping to start construction this summer, so we should start seeing some action in January or February. And in terms of the carbon bioreactor and the phosphorus filters, we should start seeing results pretty soon. So I'd be expecting we might have some numbers to tell people about at least before winter next year.
The City Council is as yet uncommitted to taking over Rugby Park. Invercargill City Chief Executive Richard King says at this stage Council is listening to interested parties. Mr King says a business report would have to be compiled that looked closely at the facility's assets and liabilities before Council could make a commitment to the home of the Southland Stags.
We've had discussions with a number of interested parties over the future of Rugby Park. Initially we were approached by the trustees of the outdoor stadium as it is known, and they expressed the wish that some other party took over the running of it. Now, Mayor Tim has made the statement I think it was inevitable that the council own it. And the reason he said that was because I think we're the only province that doesn't own its rugby stadium. Having said that, we've got a long way to go yet. Obviously, before it was considered by council, we'd have to put a business case up which looked at the assets, the liabilities. There is some earthquake strengthening needed to be done. We'd have to look at the anticipated expenditures and revenues, and it's only at that stage that we would put a proposal to the council.
It's not about the rugby park actually making money, is it? Because they don't anywhere in New Zealand, do they? It's all about the businesses that benefit from those games, isn't it?
That's right. Obviously, when you have rugby games in the city, you get a lot of people in from perhaps Southland and outlying provinces. So it's the economic benefit that the facility doesn't make a profit, but it's the economic benefit that it would bring to the city by having people come in and spend their money here.
And that's all from us on this fine Tuesday. Sport is along next after the weather. From us, good night.